Welcome back to the channel, Lift On.
SoHo Interior Design. Your home as a timeless, rich, artistic loft. If we had to describe SoHo in one sentence, we would say this: it is a style built on strong architecture, rich materials, collected art, and a feeling that the room has been lived with, not staged in one day. It carries weight and presence, without trying to impress in an obvious way. Everything feels intentional, but never forced. It is not plain, and it is not overly modern. Clean lines alone are not enough here, and perfection is not the goal. What matters is depth, contrast, and the sense that the space has evolved over time. SoHo interiors are layered, expensive-looking, and artistic, but also personal. You see pattern, texture, and bold elements, yet they are balanced carefully so the room still feels calm. It is this mix of richness and control that creates that unmistakable atmosphere. Stay with us until the end, because we will show you how to create your own SoHo Escape in a way that feels rich, balanced, and believable. Not just visually strong, but emotionally right. Before we jump in, please press like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, so you never miss new videos. And if you'd like to support the channel, please use super thanks. Every bit of support means the world to us and helps us keep making great content for you. Where it comes from. Soho style began with large loft spaces in Lower Manhattan, where industrial buildings were transformed into homes. These spaces kept their original character: tall ceilings, steel windows, brick, plaster, and wide open layouts. The architecture was not softened, it became the foundation of the style. At first, these interiors were quite raw and minimal, simply adapting the space for living. But over time, the atmosphere changed as creative people started to shape these lofts in a more personal way. The rooms began to feel less like converted buildings and more like expressive living environments. Artists, collectors, and design-focused owners introduced art, textiles, and objects that did not follow a strict system. Patterned fabrics, layered rugs, and unexpected furniture combinations started to appear. Nothing looked overly coordinated. Instead, everything felt selected gradually. This process created a very specific kind of richness. Not decorative richness, but a depth that comes from contrast, materials, and individuality. The interiors began to reflect taste, experience, and personal choices rather than trends. That is the key difference. Soho is not only about the architectural shell, but about how that structure is filled and interpreted. It is the balance between strong, simple space and a layered, collected interior that gives Soho its identity. what you get from it. If you build your space this way, the experience changes noticeably. When Soho style is done well, it gives a room instant depth and character. Every corner, every surface carries a sense of thought and intention, making the space feel alive and layered. The room doesn't just exist, it speaks. You get more visual interest than in most other interiors. Patterns, textures, and art interact in ways that draw the eye, creating moments of surprise without chaos. Each piece feels carefully chosen, even when it seems effortless. There is also emotional weight in the room. Soho spaces feel inhabited and curated, as if they have stories to tell. They provide a sense of presence that makes anyone entering the room feel a connection to it immediately. At the same time, the style balances structure and freedom. Lines, volumes, and architectural elements anchor the space, while softer furnishings, layered rugs, and collected objects add warmth and unpredictability. It never feels stiff or overly controlled. Finally, Soho interiors feel personal without tipping into messiness. They can handle bold patterns, contrasting colors, and striking textures, but everything feels composed. The result is a space that is rich, expressive, and uniquely individual. Benefits of SoHo style. If you build your space this way, the experience changes noticeably. A stronger sense of personality. SoHo rooms immediately tell a story about the people who live there. They do not feel generic or staged. Every object has been chosen over time, not just for decoration. The mix of furniture, textiles, and art reflects taste, confidence, and a point of view. Even subtle choices, like a patterned sofa or a sculptural side table, contribute to the personality of the space. In the end, the room feels lived in and unmistakably unique. More visual richness. This style thrives on layers and depth. Patterned sofas, textured tables, rugs with character, and art-filled walls combine to create visual interest without chaos. Different materials, wood, stone, metal, fabric, interact to give a sense of tactility and warmth. Lighting adds another dimension, highlighting key features and creating mood. Overall, the room feels full, dynamic, and engaging in every corner. better balance between structure and softness. The architecture in Soho often provides strong lines and open volume, giving the space a clear structure. Against this framework, fabrics, rugs, cushions, and artwork introduce softness and warmth. That tension between the solid and the delicate creates harmony, making the space feel complete rather than cold. The room invites both the eye and the body to linger, blending strength with comfort. More freedom with combinations. Soho encourages unexpected pairings, old and new, rough and refined, bold and subtle. A patterned sofa can balance a plain velvet armchair. A carved wood console can sit beside a sleek stone tub. These combinations keep the room feeling curated rather than forced. You are free to experiment while still maintaining cohesion, which makes decorating both creative and personal. A room that feels expensive without trying too hard. True Soho richness comes from careful choices, not obvious displays of wealth. Scale, proportion, material quality, and thoughtful placement create the feeling of expense. Even a modest object can feel valuable when combined with complementary textures, colors, or patterns. The room appears considered, layered, and confident, rather than overly decorative. This effortless richness makes the space timeless and sophisticated. Which of these benefits resonates most with your lifestyle? Share your thoughts in the comments. The core principles for creating your SoHo Escape. This is where everything comes together. These principles reflect the full diversity you've seen, not just one version of the style. Start with strong architecture. SoHo works best when the room has structure that commands attention without overwhelming the senses. Tall ceilings, large steel-framed windows, brick or plaster walls, and open volume create the foundation for everything else. Even simple architecture should feel solid and purposeful, giving the space presence before any decoration begins. Think of it as the skeleton that allows the interior to breathe and display its richness naturally. The proportions, light, and sight lines should guide your design decisions from the first moment. A strong architectural base makes all layers, furniture, art, and pattern, cohesive. Keep the room rich, not noisy. Richness in Soho comes from depth and layering, not from clutter or forced abundance. Each piece should feel selected and meaningful, whether it's a patterned sofa, a textured table, or a statement rug. Instead of crowding the room with too many small decorative objects, allow a few serious pieces to command attention. The space should feel full, but curated, with areas that breathe visually. Richness emerges when the elements talk to each other in proportion, scale, and texture, creating a sense of sophistication. This careful editing is what separates collected interiors from chaotic ones. Use patterns with control. Patterns are essential in Soho, but they must be intentional and curated. Sofas, tables, rugs, and even wall surfaces can carry pattern, but each pattern should harmonize with the others rather than compete. Controlled repetition and thoughtful layering make the room feel alive without becoming visually exhausting. Patterns can carry mood, reference history, or add unexpected contrast, but they must be spaced and weighted with care. A well-placed pattern piece will elevate the space, giving it energy and texture while maintaining balance. This is how pattern becomes expressive, not chaotic. Let furniture feel collected. Soho interiors thrive on furniture that feels gathered over time, rather than purchased as a set. Pair different styles, eras, and materials to achieve a sense of personality. A patterned sofa can sit next to plain armchairs, a marble table can complement a velvet bench, and a walnut console can exist alongside a brass sideboard. Each piece should feel like it has a story or a purpose. This collected approach adds dimension and authenticity to the space. Variety, when balanced, creates a richness that is impossible to replicate with uniformity. Use color with confidence. Color in Soho should be layered and purposeful, not arbitrary. Deep green, navy, rust, burgundy, ochre, dusty rose, teal, and warm ivory all work beautifully when balanced. One or two colors can lead while others support, guiding the eye and creating cohesion. Contrast is a tool: light walls against darker furniture, bold cushions against neutral sofas, or patterned rugs against soft floors. Using color intentionally enhances the emotional impact of the space. A room with well-chosen contrast feels both dynamic and collected. Make art feel collected, not coordinated. Art in Soho should feel discovered, not bought in a single trip. Mix abstract, figurative, and sculptural works with care. One large piece can anchor a wall, while smaller groupings create intimacy. Scale matters. Large art should have breathing room, smaller pieces can layer subtly. Art should feel personal, like it belongs to someone with taste and curiosity. When placed thoughtfully, it transforms the space into a gallery of personality rather than a display of decoration. The goal is lived-in sophistication, not staged perfection. Choose materials with weight. Soho interiors demand materials that convey substance and presence. Walnut, oak, travertine, marble, stone, brass, velvet, linen, jacquard, leather, and textured plaster all contribute richness. Even quiet pieces should feel expensive up close, rewarding inspection with texture and detail. Materials should harmonize, offering tactile contrast and visual depth. The weight and quality of materials anchor the design and elevate the room beyond its architectural shell. Using substantial materials consistently signals refinement without resorting to ostentation. Build contrast into the room. Contrast is the engine that keeps Soho interiors alive. Soft meets hard, dark meets light, smooth meets textured, plain meets patterned. A dark coffee table on a faded rug, a velvet sofa against a stone side table, or a patterned textile against a plaster wall, all create visual tension. This interplay adds drama and sophistication without chaos. Contrast also guides the eye and clarifies hierarchy in the space. Thoughtful layering of opposing elements creates energy while maintaining cohesion. Use lighting as a centerpiece. Lighting in Soho should be as considered as furniture or art. Chandeliers can be sculptural, layered, or glass-based, but they must feel intentional and proportionate. Table lamps, floor lamps, and perimeter lights add warmth, depth, and shadow play. Lighting should highlight surfaces, textures, and art, creating mood and guiding attention. Properly layered lighting transforms a space from merely functional to emotionally resonant. In a Soho interior, light becomes both practical and expressive, enhancing richness and personality. Leave room for imperfection. SoHo interiors feel alive because they embrace subtle imperfection. This does not mean damage or fake aging. It means slight asymmetry, unexpected pairings, or objects that surprise the eye. A mix of eras, styles, or textures keeps the room dynamic and collected. Spaces should never feel overpolished. The human element must show. These small tensions create personality, warmth, and authenticity. Imperfection in SoHo is not a flaw. It is what makes the space feel real and lived in. We would like to hear from you. Drop us a comment. Which design principle speaks to your personal style the most? SoHo style is not about following a strict formula or copying what someone else has done. It is about shaping a space that feels lived in, intentional, and full of personality. Every object and surface should tell a story rather than simply fill space. At the heart of SoHo interiors is architecture that commands attention. High ceilings, wide windows, exposed beams, and structural details give the room a solid foundation to hold richer elements. These bones allow the space to feel expansive and grounded at the same time. Materials in a SoHo space are chosen for weight, texture, and visual richness. Think carved wood, marble, stone, brass, velvet, and linen. Each surface adds depth and substance without overwhelming the overall composition. Pattern and color are used thoughtfully to create energy without chaos. Sofas, tables, rugs, and textiles may carry patterns, but they are curated and balanced. Bold colors are introduced with control, so the room feels dynamic yet coherent. Art completes the story of a Soho interior. Pieces should feel collected over time, not coordinated for effect. When executed well, the result is a space that looks expensive, layered, and entirely authentic, a home where taste and personality shine through.
We welcome your feedback in the comments on what you'd like to see on the Lift On channel in the future. If you want to support the channel, please use Super Thanks. Your support means a lot, it helps us continue providing valuable content. Thank you for your generosity. Please press like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to catch up on more videos. See you soon and have a good day.